Vivaldi,
Da Vinci,
Rembrandt.
These are the names of
Armstrong,
Ollie,
Hendrix.
Tupac.
Biggie,
Kendrick,
Kanye.
All these are
Bach,
Van Gogh,
Monet.
Chopin,
Queen,
Warhol,
Basquiat.
DMC,
Chance,
Drake,
Jay-Z.
J. Cole,
Dre,
Juice WRLD,
Kanye.
that girl from the Progressive commercials.
What do these all have in common?
Do you really not know?
No, this is a rhetorical question.
It kind of seems like you really don't know.
No, but it was
But you
rhetorical.
asked though.
No, but it was
But you
rhetorical.
asked though.
No, it was definitely rhetorical.
I mean, but he asked though, so.
Give us a second.
Wait, so what do these all have?
Bro, I thought you knew. Dude, I literally have no idea. I just thought the name sounded cool. Anush?
I don't even know what Basquiat is.
Okay, I have a plan.
Wait. Our mics are turned off for this part, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
These are all artists.
Throughout history, art has reflected and reformed culture, advocating for change and promoting awareness about really important issues.
Today, we're gonna hone in on hip hop.
From hip hop's origins in the 70s,
To the commercializations of the 2000s.
Rap has acted as a mirror for the community it came from and later the world.
but perhaps more importantly, it has amplified the messages of its creators, becoming an avenue for change in itself.
So, let's get down to business. Ready, team?
Ready?
Ready!
Ready?
Team cool on 3.
Oh my god.
1, 2, 3.
Cool!
Yeah!
We're gonna travel back, far back in time, to 1973.
In order to create a more immersive experience, we're gonna make sound effects while we set the scene.
Bro, I told you it was not. No, stop, you're ruining the speech. This is supposed to be my moment.
1973 was when hip-hop was born.
It started in a pool party in the Bronx, so I guess you could say it made an enormous splash.
Splash! Rhythmic beats and complicated rhyme schemes were passed down from griots, respected African oral historians and praise singers.
These griots traveled to member tribe villages and spread knowledge about the news of births, deaths, and wars.
Hip-hop continued this tradition of spreading information into the 1970s, where it channeled the spirit and activism of the civil rights era proceeding.
Hip-hop groups of this decade, from Public Enemy to Poor Righteous Teachers, used rap to spotlight the socio-political issues the larger black community faced.
Artists discussed grave issues such as racial profiling from public officials and stories of economic plight that were reality for many black Americans.
By voicing the conditions of the oppressed, hip-hop led to a reform and altered opinions. They created change.
Now, let's take you a little bit forward.
To the time of disco.
Now that's groovy, baby! Now that's groovy, baby!
We heard it the first time.
During the 80s, the relationship between hip-hop and politics grew stronger.
With the reeling effects of stagflation in the late 1970s, citizens desired reform.
Ronald Reagan's election helped end the recession, but as the general American economy recovered, his policies made black unemployment and poverty skyrocket.
Many saw hip-hop as an outlet to escape this poverty. The cities hit hardest by Reaganomics, like New York, Los Angeles, Oakland, Houston, and Chicago, became deeply rooted in black culture.
Spearheaded by artists such as Public Enemy, Just Ice, and Dougie Fresh, the movement publicly denounced the violence that became commonplace in these communities, largely through rap.
Rap directly entered politics as well. Rap artist Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel endorsed Democratic candidate Jesse Jackson in their 1984 hit single, Jesse, exemplifying rap as a medium for political action.
Okay, now that's groovy, baby!
Just stop.
Although Jackson eventually lost the nomination to Walter Mondale, the reciprocal influence between rap and hip-hop would increase in subsequent decades. I'm Cameron.
I'm Sid.
I'm Anush.
I'm Abhi.
And
This is our
Next slide. By the 1990s, hip-hop started movements highlighting inequality by providing a voice to the voiceless.
Unlike previous decades, however, the 1990s were defined by a new form of hip-hop, gangster rap.
Championed by artists such as Outkast and Tupac, it focused on presenting a harsh outlook on reality, reflecting the current state of its listeners.
For example, during this period, mass incarceration rates rose dramatically, but black men outside of prison still experienced the same dilapidated housing and poor health conditions that affected prisoners.
Gangster rap reflected these conditions, such as when Tupac rhymed in his song Trapped, too many brothers daily headed for the big pen, coming out worse off than when they went in.
There, Tupac reflects the conditions of mass incarceration.
Yet, hip-hop also acted as an informer. In a study conducted at Emory University's Rollins School of Public Health, researchers found that when black children ages 11 through 14 listened to rappers like The Goody Mob or Big Pun, they were more knowledgeable about AIDS and were better able to have discussions about safe sex, abstinence, and condom use.
By forging a space for productive discussion on real issues, hip-hop began to shift the perspective of its listeners.
But gangster rap caused problems as well.
It pitted a new generation empowered by this type of hip-hop against an older civil rights era generation that generalized this music as ignorant and violent.
Like Outkast's 1998 song Rosa Parks, which was very good, but had nothing to do with civil rights.
In March of 1999, Parks' lawyer filed a suit for defamation, and the legal battle saw prominent figures from the civil rights era duking it out with the hip-hop generation.
Gangster rap represented more than just the newer generation's desire for change and their experiences in the ghetto.
It also represented a significant divergence from the previous generation, one certainly present in many listeners of gangsta rap, serving as a mirror.
As the lawsuit ended, Outkast pledged to work on projects to enlighten today's youth about Rosa Parks.
The person, not the song.
But they also admitted no wrongdoing.
In this statement, Outkast spoke for much of the newer generation that grew up on hip-hop. Through their words and their music, they reflected a changing population, for better or for worse.
Well, that was sad.
Agreed, that was bumming me out.
Let's talk about the 2000s, where there wasn't any generational divergence because everyone loved hip-hop.
The 2000s, my first memory was a bright light, and then this warmth. I was crying, but I was happy. Everything was so new, and I was bloody and naked.
Are you just describing your birth?
What? I was 8.
At the turn of the century, the dynamics of hip-hop began to shift.
Politically conscious hip-hop remained popular in the underground music scene, but largely exited mainstream pop culture.
In its place was a far more commercialized hip-hop.
Large corporations soon forced smaller African-American stations to shut down through aggressive buyouts.
Ultimately, mainstream hip-hop began to lose its ability to inspire real social change.
To best explain this transformation, we're going to defer you to esteemed hip-hop expert Akuti Havarti from a small island off the coast of Taiwan.
In the 2000s, hip-hop no longer discussed issues relevant to the black community, such as police brutality or rising poverty rates. Corporate record labels focused on transforming hip-hop into a business. Small independent artists joined larger corporate entities to utilize their resources and connections. As a result, labels began to exert their influence over rappers, dictating the content and messages behind their music. Rap music became repackaged to the mainstream, and in doing so, it became synonymous with mainstream music. Record labels began to flip rap songs into extravagant music videos, increasing their revenue and cultural appeal. Blinded by the prospect of profit, large labels effectively erased the socioeconomic context from which rap emerged.
As Dr. Havarti clearly explains, hip-hop has grown commercial.
In the last decade, the rise of social media as a method for mass communication has exacerbated the commercialization of the hip-hop industry.
Now, record labels and rap artists can promote their music more effectively than ever using social media, reaching millions of listeners in mere seconds.
Despite this, just as civil rights advocacy shaped the message hip-hop conveyed in the 1980s, social activism and the culture it promotes continues to influence the stylistic evolution of hip-hop.
This is why, although the consumeristic rhetoric that dominated the 2000s is more prominent than ever, it's taken a different form this decade.
Mumble rap, A genre of hip-hop in which artists purposefully avoid emphasizing lyricism has taken prominence.
We have prepared a brief sample for you to illustrate, which Abi will now perform. Now presenting Lil Abi.
Aight, yo, fire, aight, this gon' be lit. Fire, aight, hype beast on the track. Okay, yeah, aight, yo, it is lit.
That concludes.
Mumble rap frequently uses social media to promote itself. As a platform for political advocacy and music promotion, social media has developed a culture of low-effort activism.
In his essay Small Change, Malcolm Gladwell defines this social media age of activism as weak tide, low risk.
Via social media, participants no longer muster the level of commitment needed to change the status quo.
Social media rapidly increases the amount of information we receive and accelerates the time frame in which we obtain it.
The result is a modern form of social activism that doesn't concentrate on a specific issue, but instead touches upon a wide range of issues with little effectiveness.
Through this type of activism, mumble rap is born.
Just like a 150-character tweet might pass as social activism today, mumble rap is filled with small snippets of communication to convey its message. Let's rewind the sample we just played. Abi?
Aight, yo, fire, aight, this gon' be lit. Fire, aight, hype beast on the track. Okay, yeah, aight, yo, it is lit.
Stop. Almost meaningless bits such as aight, yo, and hype beast on the track mirror the microactivism of Facebook and Instagram we've become accustomed to.
This furthers our point. For the last 5 decades, hip-hop has mirrored and reflected the mindset of its target audience, for better or for worse.
So, for realism, I'm Cam.
I'm Sid.
I'm Anush.
I'm Abi, and this is
Our
Our
next
next
slide again.
Through the many evolutions hip-hop has gone through in the last 50 years, there's been a constant upward trend of its popularity.
Today, hip-hop is the most popular music genre in the world as it occupies mainstream media.
This is why, despite its apparent move away from a political undertone, politicians are finding an increasing interest in hip-hop.
Politicians across the political spectrum are beginning to use hip-hop as a means of relating to their voters.
For example, Ben Carson announced his 2016 campaign by having his hometown choir sing Eminem's Lose Yourself.
Democrat Hillary Clinton made a lyrical reference to Beyonce's hit song Formation, so as to be uber hip and cool.
Despite the social media age, as hip-hop has received more attention in the past few years, it has slowly reopened to the world of politics.
More and more, artists are using their growing platform to comment on social and political issues.
This commentary has accelerated since the historic 2016 presidential elections, for obvious reasons.
Donald Trump.
The man was once regarded as the epitome of the aspirational culture in hip-hop because of his monetary success, leading rappers to flex wealth saying they're up like Donald Trump.
But he has since become the target of the hip-hop
A lot of
community,
them hate him.
reinvigorating hip-hop's relationship with politics.
But there are those who like him.
Such as Kanye West.
Yeezy.
Yeezus.
Mr. West.
Kanye.
Yay.
One half of Kid See Ghost. Kanye and Kid Cudi's duo music team.
One half of Watch the Throne, Kanye and Jay-Z's joint album venture.
And many more.
Regardless, lyrics such as Nipsey Hussle's, "He can't make decisions for this country," "He gon' crash us," "No, we can't be a slave to him," directly point at Trump.
Artists call him out for various issues that we will not comment on in this speak out.
We are politically neutral.
This speak out's neither for nor against Trump.
We have no opinion on this matter.
That aside, due to his racist, problematic, and offensive rhetoric, the widespread commentary in hip-hop has been powerful.
Noticing the discontent, Donald Trump even attempted to make amends with the hip-hop community recently by helping rapper A$AP Rocky get out of jail in Sweden.
So, evidently, hip-hop as a platform for social activism is coming back.
Although not starting debates on key political issues, hip-hop artists are amplifying the voices of their followers, thus garnering attentions for these issues.
In the beginning of our speak out, we told you that art has both reflected and reformed culture.
The reflection of hip hop to the culture surrounding it is obvious.
The 70s and 80s reflected the civil rights movement. The 90s reflected the crippling conditions of Black America. The 2000s and 2010s reflected the increasingly commercialized culture.
Some would say hip hop can't reform, but look back to the 70s, where hip hop amplified the voices of those who grew up in the civil rights era, discussing economic plight and racial profiling.
Look back to the 90s, where rappers used their larger platform to present to the world their struggles, from mass incarceration to generational conflict.
And look to the late 2010s, with artists speaking out against Donald Trump, using their voices to protest.
At its best, hip-hop can amplify voices, even movements.
We've told you about the 1970s, the 1990s, the 2010s.
But we're in the 2020s, a brand new decade.
Hip-hop can create change, and it can also be reflective of our culture.
So, we want to ask you, how can you change the culture art's reflecting?
Let's be the voices hip hop amplifies.
Let's say something meaningful.
Because if we can do that, art can truly create a revolution.
You know, we've been talking from our cards all this time, but now it's time to speak to you from the heart.
That's gonna take too long.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
Let's go.
Hurry up. Like, next group has to go.
I'm Cameron,
I'm Sid.
I'm Anirsh.
I'm Abhi.
and this is
Our Speak Out.